Okay. Alright, didn't look like the video was very good again. I don't know. Okay, that's too low. Okay. It annoys me. I don't really know if that lower. Okay. Here's some things I didn't say last night that I want to say tonight. You had, like I say, I always try to do the margin of what Fox News doesn't say, what you don't hear in the media. You know, there's Fox News, which does a little, of course you have the conflict of interest, fraudulent corporate media like CNN, where they're just a negative, 24-hour a day negative campaign ad against Trump because they're trying to knock him off, essentially, because of their corporate interests. The corporate interests of would be Time Warner, Disney, and Comcast. They have corporate interests. That's why they run a negative attack constantly against Trump. That's why they took over the media, basically. Have more control over the government. Anyway, but then you have Fox News, which tries to be balanced, fair and balanced, which is a lot more fair and balanced, but they miss things. They're missing a whole lot here. And we had basically a report, CBS, which I don't feel like CBS is quite as biased as the other two. They don't seem to be, ABC and NBC. But apparently they have some bias. They had Scott Pelley on there, and they had a representative from the White House. I don't remember his name. And trying to defend Trump. And what I'm trying to do here is defend Trump and see if I can do a better job than the representative they had in the White House. This is my, you figure if you're doing a better job, then it might be worth people's time, but maybe not. No, I don't know about that. Doesn't mean anybody's going to watch it. Anyway, so he gave, a part of the screenplay, the dialogue that went on between him and the Ukrainian leader. And he said, we just gave you a bunch of military aid, essentially, and how about helping us out with giving us dirt on Biden? Something to that effect. He didn't say, we gave you military aid, therefore you're obligated to help us, and if you want more, you better help us. He didn't really word it that way, but anyway, Scott and the other guy attempted to defend him. But I have a lot better defense than the other guy gave. The other guy didn't really have anything. He couldn't defend him at all. What I heard. But my defense would have been something like, I would ask Scott Pelley, why was Donald Trump elected? He was, the main reason he got voted in is because he was, they wanted someone that wasn't establishment, an outsider. He was an outsider. They wanted an outsider to get in and stop the government corruption. And essentially drain the swamp. He wasn't a deep state. He wasn't he wanted someone to stop the ugly, corrupt status quo establishment. And if people elected him for that reason, and here we have, you're working for CBS, which has a corporate interest, it has a parent company. Which means there's a conflict of interest. You figure the deep state, a lot of it has to do with the corporates that are involved in the campaign finance corruption that's going on. And if the corporate's all on the media and you're represented, and you're Scott Pelley and you're representing CBS, and basically has a corporate parent company, then how is the public going to think that anything you say is credible? Because you got to figure that ever since the corporates took over the media, and they told Congress the reason they took over the media was to shut up independent voices. Protect the establishment, basically. That's why they took it over. So we noticed that since, when was the last time they had a report like William Westmoreland, where Mike Wallace, CBS reports Vietnam and deception, did William Westmoreland fake the figures? That came on back in 1981 or whatever it is. We haven't had a report like that since. We used to have, if Congress got seized up, the media would go to Congress and get the other side and say, what's your plan? And put pressure on the other side to reach a compromise. They don't do that anymore if the corporate interest is involved. So basically they don't have any credibility. So we have a deep state with a big swamp Also, the corporate media won't bring out that closing the border makes wages higher, which we have. You know, we had a standard of living back in '62 when everybody made $95,000 a year in today's dollars, and we got to get that raised. And corporate media won't bring out that the corporates all want the border closed, borders open, so they can profit and run wages down and screw pretty much every, the 99%, the detriment. Yeah, to the detriment of the 99%. The corporate media won't bring that out. So it makes you wonder if Scott Pelley is working for him, and that's what I would have told him. How much credibility do you have? We lost our standard of living due to the campaign finance system and the trade unions. We lost the trade unions. The campaign finance system knocked off the trade unions. And the corporates all support campaign finance corruption. Okay, so we have a bunch of sucking sound. Basically, Congress doesn't work. We've got a sucking sound towards the periphery. That means Congress sucks to both sides of the spectrum. Where it used to before the corruption, because of the campaign money, it's elections an auction. Everybody, the more money you have, the more apt you are to win it. So the highest bidder goes to the highest bidder. So everything sucks towards the periphery because they want the campaign money, need the campaign money to get reelected. Where before, like back in the '60s, so that Congress sees up, nothing gets done. You don't get your DACA bill or anything else, or chain migration stopped, or the catch and release stopped. None of that stops because the corporates always win it. So we have everything sucking towards the periphery, and where it used to be, the voters are centrist, and they would be afraid of the voter, afraid of the electorate. Well, they aren't anymore now, because if they've got campaign money, they don't need the electorate. Basically, the electorate listens to the negative campaigning and falls for it hook, line, and sinker, and votes with one of the most campaign money. So you've got where it used to go to the center, where they'd be afraid of the electorate and they all move to the center, and they'd be afraid not to reach a compromise because of the electorate. That doesn't happen anymore. So basically, we have the deep state, which Trump is trying to put a stop to. And the deep state has several candidates they support. Their head in the sand. The system's broken. They've got their head in the sand. They ignore it. And those candidates are Biden, Harris, and Buttigieg. Those three are swampers, essentially. Well, anyway, Tulsi Gabbard got in there and knocked off Harris pretty good. Knocked her down. Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard was not in the fourth debate. They cut her out of it. The deep state runs the DNC. So we got the deep state there. Now Trump comes in there and basically he uses Ukraine to knock Biden off. Okay, so what's happened? The deep state just got kicked in the balls pretty hard. So what's the deep state trying to do? Strike back and impeach Trump. That way, Biden stays in. Biden looks like the good guy. And they keep him in there. They keep his approval rating high. And also, there won't be so much light shed on the corruption, which almost all Congress is involved in. And that includes, the perks they get from the slush fund that sends them to Tahiti and everywhere else that the corporates give them for favors. So, and like you're saying, Biden uses his son, and they're a position to make money off of other countries, off of corruption in foreign countries. They're all involved in it. They don't want light shed on that. And Trump got in there and he shed a bunch of light on it. So you got basically the deep state fighting back. So Trump knocked the swamp in the balls. The swamp's retaliating by impeachment. And if Trump in his mind believed he was draining the swamp by getting dirt on Biden, he had the public good in mind. He had no corrupt intent. If he got dirt on him from the Ukraine, if he had the public good should supersede the election. Whether he was used a foreign country to win the election. If he did it for the public good, in his mind did it for the public good, there was no corrupt intent, then that should supersede. He shouldn't be impeached for that reason. Therefore, he hasn't really committed a crime. And that's all the case he has to make. That's all the case Trump needs to make to stop the impeachment. But he won't do it. I doubt it. I haven't heard it yet. I hear smart people on there every once in a while on Fox News, but I never hear Trump say this. But he has a good reason for putting. But that's the way that guy should have answered to Scott Pelley. And that's the way I would have answered it. And Whether that's any better than the one the guy gave, it's too long, but I condense it. You know, if I was on TV, I wouldn't make it this long. I'm on, you know, camera. I don't condense things, or I'm not as concise and to the point as I ought to be. You know that. But anyway, stopping corruption could change the standard of living. Essentially, we have a standard of living that's way too low. It's real high in the 60s. And stopping the corruption and keeping the swampers out of there. And that's Biden, Buttigieg, and Kamala Harris. And the ones that are trying to drain the swamp are Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Tulsi Gabbard seems to be pretty good. Okay, she gets part of it. She's missing a lot. The other thing I was going to talk about too, I forgot to talk about last night, we have the identity. You know, like I say, we have someone in there that's, you know, the whistleblower. They won't reveal his identity. And they're, like I say, they did the same thing to Jerry Brown. He was going to drain the swamp a long time ago. They got in there, had 3 people, they had their identities, you know, their silhouette, they distorted their voice so nobody knew who they were, didn't give their identity, said they were smoking pot in the governor's mansion in California. You know, well, it looks like just a hit job, and it probably, you know, dematerialized. Probably for that reason, because they didn't reveal who they were. Everybody knew it was just a hoax, like Trump calls it, but we got the same thing, but he's not revealing his identity. There's reasons you need to reveal the identity of this whistleblower. Because basically, it's like I said in the Pledge of Allegiance, justice for all. Well, it has to do with justice. If you don't know the identity of the whistleblower, you don't have justice. And it says, you know, Pledge of Allegiance, I don't know, is that a written document like the Constitution? I don't know, it holds as much weight. But anyway, you assume justice for all means the president and the people that put him in. Isn't that part of justice? I would think it would. You take a good example, like I always say, there's 3 states to stay out of because they have corrupt judiciaries, corrupt legal systems. That's Texas, California, and Virginia. I don't even drive through them, I drive around them because I feel that they have corrupt judiciaries. Anyway, you have Marv Albert, Virginia, and here's a good example of injustice in Virginia. You had an accuser that accused him of rough sex. And he wanted to admit that she was a prostitute. They said, well, you couldn't admit that because it was not fair to the accuser. But you had to know her identity to know that she had a conflict of interest, and that was that she'd been a prostitute. A lot of times they initiate rough sex. Well, here's what happened. Basically, she had initiated rough sex the whole time they were having sex. I mean, from day one. So what did he do? All of a sudden he decided he wanted to stop the relationship. Well, here she felt jilted. So she's going to get even with him and just say, well, he did a bunch of rough sex. But when she's the one that started, and they've been doing it forever. And it wasn't a problem until he left. You know, so he's going to get even. So they threw him in jail. I don't know what they did because he was using rough sex. It's one thing if someone goes to church every Sunday and you jump on them and use a bunch of rough sex when they don't want it. That isn't what happened. And like Jerry Spence brought out, it's one thing if a prostitute is walking down the street in the grocery store. He's walking down the street in the grocery store and some guy sees her, thinks she looks real good, jumps on her and rapes her. It should be inadmissible if she's a prostitute because the rape had nothing to do, he didn't know she was a prostitute, it had nothing to do with her getting raped any more than the man in the moon. Supposedly she's dressed right and everything, but so it should be inadmissible. But in this case it should have been admitted. And why wasn't it? Because it's Virginia, and Virginia is corrupt, basically. Corrupt state. Well, stay out of it, don't drive through it. But that's the same reason. Here's the same reason that whistleblower should be identified. Because it could be, you know, like Ajit Pai, you know, it's revolving doors involved. He had to do with the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, the head of the FCC. You know, it's like get in there, screw the YouTube, shut them up, and we'll give you a big paycheck when you get a job, when you get done with this job, the government job, we'll give you a better job, you know, $5 billion a year, whatever they give them. It could be the same case with a whistleblower. It may be a revolving door case, where it's like you get in there, you knock Trump off, and we'll give you a triple paycheck when you get out. And if Trump doesn't know who he is, he has no way of knowing that, knowing his motive, and what happens if it's a revolving door, and it is just a hit job, which, well, everyone knows about it for one thing, and that's why they don't want anyone to know who he is. And the other thing is, they tend to exaggerate, they tend to lie, they tend to add things that aren't there. Their motive, it speaks to motive, you know, the same thing with the Marv Albert case. Anyway, that's why they need to identify them, and in the case with Jerry Brown, just to dematerialize, and this one may too, but That's things I forgot to bring out last night that in my other report. Anyway, thanks for watching.